Welcome back on 3.0 TV. This is Manoj Dara, and we have special guest Mr. Tom Lyons and Samrat Kishor from the Ethereum Ecosystem to discuss about the business readiness of Ethereum ecosystem. So, you guys are involved in a lot of trainings, to educate all those individuals who are ready to come into your ecosystem and join your ecosystem. So, is this question about privacy remains a key concern, because your report is already highlighting, and what are you answering them, all those individuals who are currently bothered about this privacy aspect?
So it's extremely important to a lot of people, especially in the business world. So one of the main blockers of using blockchain has always been nobody wants to give their data away. Nobody wants to, and that's why you have large consumer platforms like Amazon, but you don't have huge global business-oriented platform like that, because people are worried about the data. So what we're telling people is that this is being solved through the L2s and also through the advances in cryptography. Like everyone's talking about zero knowledge proofs, but there are other things. We think that, or I personally think that it's possible within the next couple of years to sort of square this circle between the transparency, which makes blockchain work, and the privacy, which makes it useful for business.
All right.
And can I add a point to the show me the money question?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Please do.
Okay.
Please, Tom.
Because
this is more interesting.
A couple of our use cases really. So there's two things you're going to get out of a blockchain use case that works. You're going to gain efficiencies and save money. And you're going to be able to address larger markets. Now, for example, one of our use cases involves Microsoft Azure, the cloud platform, and for their global cloud computing platform for all their server farms, they introduced a blockchain-based, a private Ethereum-based platform, okay, for all of their suppliers. And they tokenized every single component. So every SSD, every hard drive, everything and globally in Microsoft Azure is represented by a token. Okay, and then these tokens flow along the supply chain. By doing this, they were able to introduce massive efficiency to the whole system. Okay, and they saving, by their estimates, about $50 million a year doing this. Okay, they also gain transparency into the whole supply chain. And we see a lot of stories like this. And if I can tell a second story, one of the other cases I have involves Birra Peroni. So that's the most popular beer in Italy. And they wanted to do on the consumer loyalty side, they decided they tokenized their beer making process such that you can, if you buy a bottle of beer in Italy now, Peroni, you can scan a QR code and you can see exactly where all the ingredients came from and what batch it came from. But in order, and this is all based on, this is also using tokenizing all the elements on the supply chain. But one of the ancillary benefits of this was, in order to do that, they had to digitize the whole supply chain anyway. So they're gaining also efficiencies, they're gaining transparency into their own work, so it's helping them.
Fantastic. It's a very, very good example, Tom, which you gave. But my next question to Samrat is, as the technology is maturing, Samrat, the world of private and public blockchain is converging. That's what the report has also mentioned. So companies today can use blockchain as a service offerings or those L2s that offer private options to quickly spin off application-specific blockchain-based solutions. So what are we trying to achieve? If you can just, actually I have not understood this line. How can you explain this to me?
Okay, very simple terms. I think the starting point is so there was a period of time, especially in India, where blockchain took off because a lot of startups were getting funded, right? So 2019, actually not just India but across the world. You look at Singapore, you look at Silicon Valley, startups were getting bizarre amounts of valuations only because they were using blockchain. Now, what are they using blockchain for is the next question, which people started asking, past couple of years, and especially when the crypto prices are a leading indicator, right? I mean, they just went up, and everybody got so interested that they wanted to, know more and more, and then those same startups got more money. So,
Fantastic.
so in a way, it's it has, and you're right. You're asking that question is very, very important. That what is a private blockchain? How are these two worlds converging? And what does it mean? I mean, what does it mean for the average people or average businesses? So technically, it's totally dependent on the business use case. If you want to open up access to transactions to an outside party from a business, you need to use a hybrid. You need to use a hybrid blockchain. You have to have. So imagine it to be like a time zone. The GMT that we use for time zones, right? We are currently in 3 different time zones, all of us. So we use GMT to synchronize, right? So blockchain, and that's what we are trying to do in baseline protocol. We're using blockchain at the center for synchronizing transactions in 2 different systems. And one very important thing, the best way to implement blockchain is to not put data on the blockchain. So no data really goes on the blockchain; it stays outside. Only proofs can be sent out. Metadata can be sent out on the blockchain. So that ways you could even be opening up your data to your competition. You can be opening up your data to your providers. Anybody in the supply chain actually. But still, nobody will have access to your data. They will just have access to metadata, which may be giving them some information. For example, what we are doing in baseline protocol, since we spoke about supply chains. So, for example, are we able to synchronize 2 different fields in 2 different systems to make sure that the entries are correct, they are matched at all times across the supply chain? So stuff like that. So that's how blockchain is presently being used. It's a team sport. One thing very important is which I want to highlight, and since you asked that question, it's a team sport. It's like I give that example a lot, which is it's like the first fax machine. You cannot operate till the time you have somebody on the other side who's ready to receive it. So you have to have these 2 parties. So there's a counterparty absolutely required at all times. Now it depends if it is inside your business, your perimeter, then you can have a private blockchain. If it is outside, you have to rely on a public blockchain for synchronizing. The third thing which you asked, which was L2 spin-ups, definitely the way forward. I think it's one major shift that you will see, Manoj, is that the most of the platforms, most of the innovation which happened in the blockchain world was open source.
Perfect.
And that was also the reason for rapid innovation and rapid adoption of this technology, because people just would spin things up and they would experiment. So a 3-people company could be competing to an Infosys, for example, in doing something great. So that's where I see L2s. The L2s are enabling businesses to try things out, implement things faster, fail faster, and create new business models.
But thanks to Tom and Samrat, now I can understand what are the ingredients that go in my beer. So moving on. Tom, my next question to you is, so as we are talking about the barriers of adoption, you have spoken to a lot of people in the ecosystem. Some are accepting what you are saying and suggesting, and there are few who are on the back foot. So according to you, if you can just highlight with few examples, what are the barriers of adoption in this space?
Okay, so first of all, we've talked about sustainability, which I think is not going to be a barrier going forward. Another big issue that we haven't talked about yet is regulation. So regulation shows up as a blocker or as a question mark for a lot of people. But we have to understand, and we try to explain in the report, there are 2 aspects to regulation. There's cryptocurrency regulation, where regulators around the world are often very skeptical and worried about consumer protection. But there's also blockchain technology regulation, and we find many jurisdictions are rather open to it. So the big example we bring in the report is here in Switzerland, where I live. The Swiss government has basically given legal status to tokenize assets.
Fantastic.
But you talk to the U.S. regulators in Europe. We have MiCA now, so there's a lot of people who come into this space. You really need to look at regulation among these 2 aspects: the cryptocurrency one, which is one thing, and the technology where jurisdictions are rather open. And then another blocker, I think, is basically understanding. What do I do with this? Why do I need it? How do I get into it? And to echo what Samrat just said, if to me personally, if you ask yourself why blockchain, the answer is always going to be because you have to coordinate among multiple parties. Okay, it's not a database for yourself. It's a synchronization engine and a settlement engine.
Fantastic. Since we are talking about the barriers of adoption and you spoke really well about the regulations, so very quickly, if you can just highlight about the futures of NFTs. If you can just briefly explain, we have seen a boom in 2021, and we are at a level wherein markets have corrected because of the obvious reasons, and hence the volumes have also corrected. So how do you see this future of NFTs going forward?
Okay, so I have to say that our report has nothing to say at all about the future of the art and collectible NFT market. But NFTs are a theme throughout the report for business use. And what I find very interesting and what we point out is that, first of all, the idea of an NFT is rather old. It's not new. It's one of the base use cases of blockchain, a non-fungible token.
Right.
It's just a unique representation of an asset in digital form. And we are seeing the use of these NFTs, which everyone associates now with art, in these business use cases. I mentioned the Microsoft tokenizing all of its hard drives. Vera Peroni tokenizing the ingredients in its supply chain. People are one of our use cases. A company is tokenizing company receivables and sort of making not a security, but making an asset out of them. So, and a lot of people are looking at are looking at NFTs on the brand side as people talk about NFTs as the new CRM. It's a new way for businesses to interact with and build relationships to their customers. I think that's an important thing, and I think the whole. I think we're going to just start seeing a real boom in understanding the value of tokenization of pretty much anything.
Fantastic. So, Samrat, very quickly, if you want to highlight on the regulation aspect, which Tom has highlighted. So, in Switzerland, there are certain regulations that are supporting the entire ecosystem. So, very quickly, if you can just highlight that in India perspective as well.
Sure, Manoj. So, I think the crypto regulations have been, there's been flip-flop around taxation. That's the only glitch I see, which is taxation on the gains people have made out of cryptocurrency. But what we are talking about today is use of software. So there is absolutely no way that the government can ban using a certain technology, unless you're creating applications which are not legal and sort of related to betting, etc. So all that is not legal. But I think there is absolutely, I don't see there is no regulatory hurdle in utilizing Ethereum.
Fantastic.
Till the time you're not doing things which are not in the purview of the law. Yeah.
So Tom, this if you can just explain, since we are at the last leg of this interview, and we are talking about the section 3, which is the assessing the business readiness of the Ethereum ecosystem. So how do you see this, the potential and capabilities of public Ethereum and the Ethereum ecosystem by shedding light on the current real value deployments of Ethereum and the Web3 solutions which they intend to achieve? If you can just simplify this for our viewer.
Yes, so our main conclusions are that when we looked at the ecosystem today, it's come a very, very long way. There's no doubt about it. And I would say that the pieces are in place for the safe and productive use of Ethereum. They're all there, but they don't necessarily fit together yet, right? It's not, things aren't necessarily integrated. So you're going to have to understand a bit or build a bit on your own to really be able to put everything together. But as opposed to even, 12 or 18 months ago, there's many more options to get help. And there's many more, people understand the setups better. And I think that the most interesting thing that came out to me personally was seeing this sort of increase in awareness of what a decentralized business model is and what it's good for and what not. So people are not afraid of public blockchain anymore. And businesses tend to be, they're looking at the stuff and saying, okay, I think there's something here. And that goes back to where Ethereum is, but the whole Web3 movement, I think, is starting to really make inroads.
All right. Samrat, your closing remarks on this.
I think the best closing remarks with this would be that Ethereum is ready for business.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining from Switzerland and explaining our viewers what this business readiness reports means for our for the individuals who are looking to come in your ecosystem. Thank you so much, Samrat, for joining us from Malaysia. and sharing your views about the entire report, ecosystem, and the way forward. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being part of this interaction and coming and talking on 3.0 TV. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's
Manoj.
great.
That's all there is in today's Digitally Unplugged. This is Manoj Dara signing off. But keep watching 3.0 TV for more such interesting interviews. Until then, thank you.